This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on 15th BIMSTEC meeting. The participants are Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Today we are discussing the visit of External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj to Nepal. The minister is there attending the Foreign Ministers' Ministerial Meet of BIMSTEC Foreign Ministers. The minister also had a bilateral meeting with the Bhutanese Foreign Minister. Ambassador Tayal, when you look at the expanding role of BIMSTEC as far as India is concerned, and what we heard from the Foreign Ministry also today was that the External Affairs Minister visit to Nepal, and BIMSTEC is actually an extension of India's neighbourhood first policy and the Look East policy. How much do you agree with this analysis that when India is such an active participant of BIMSTEC, we are doing both things together, the neighbourhood first policy and the Look East policy?
The 20th anniversary is being celebrated, but now the achievements in the last 15 years have not really been very much. Since coming to power, perhaps the present government has given it a lot of attention. And when the third summit took place in Myanmar, Prime Minister Modi had gone there and then some very important decisions had been taken, including establishment of a secretariat in Dhaka. And after that, when the BRICS summit took place in Goa, then from our side, the BIMSTEC leaders were invited for a retreat with the other four major powers. As we have seen, SAARC has hit a roadblock because of the intransigence of Pakistan. And Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, all the countries are very unhappy. And as far as trade, economic cooperation is concerned, SAARC is not going anywhere. So for India, this is a very important forum to link the remaining countries of SAARC. That means Sri Lanka, India, Nepal and Bhutan and Bangladesh with Southeast Asia, particularly with Myanmar and Thailand. So there is a very important strategic value, and also as we move forward, a lot of economic and technical cooperation can be there through BIMSTEC.
Mr. Tayal, as you mentioned about Pakistan and the problems that India and the other SAARC nations have been having with Pakistan when it comes to the functioning of SAARC as an effective and a meaningful regional cooperation. India, as you again pointed out last year in October when the BRICS summit was held, India made the outreach to the BIMSTEC leaders. And many analysts have pointed out that India's approach to BIMSTEC today is that maybe this can serve as an alternative to SAARC when it comes to regional cooperation. Do you think BIMSTEC can play that role as India moves forward?
It can certainly play that role because, first of all, there are no differences among the 6 member countries. And India is willing and ready to play a leadership role, as it is capable of doing because of the size of its economy and it borders many of these countries. And already there are some very well identified areas where progress has been made. Free trade area has been recognized as a focus area for as we move forward. Then there was a National Security Chiefs meeting in Delhi in March 2017 because for all the countries of BIMSTEC region also, the security threats are important, both the traditional security threats and the non-traditional security threats. And it is very good. All the countries see these problems in the same perspective and with the same importance. So there is a lot of potential going in that direction. Then disaster management has also been identified as a major area of cooperation. All the time cyclones and earthquakes and tsunamis and this kind of things keep happening. Earthquake in Nepal was there sometimes. So there will be a disaster management exercise in October 2017 which India would convene. So very practical areas of cooperation are being identified and there is progress in those areas.
Mr. Tayal, we also saw that the Minister Sushma Swaraj, she held a bilateral meeting with the Bhutanese Foreign Minister. And though not too many details have emerged as to what was discussed between the two leaders, when one looks at the India-China standoff in Doklam, which has been there since June, do you feel that the two ministers meeting in the backdrop of the Doklam standoff, of course we assume that the crisis was discussed. How do you feel India and Bhutan will go forward as far as countering an aggressive China is concerned when we look at the Doklam standoff? How do you see the entire situation?
The meeting between the two foreign ministers in Nepal is extremely important in the current context. And Bhutan is caught in a very difficult situation. It's a small country. And China, they have a border difference which is unresolved. And China is claiming Bhutanese territory. And Bhutan, being a small country, is not in a position to challenge China. But they have stated in their statements in the end of June that China is trying to make that road in Bhutanese territory, and it is disputed territory, and there has never been a settlement with China as far as that particular area is concerned, whereas China is claiming that there has been a settlement. And eventually, whatever China is doing very adversely affects India's security. So India comes in both as a friend of Bhutan, as a security partner of Bhutan, but also to safeguard our own security. And why China has suddenly become aggressive in an area which was peaceful and tranquil, which has never really been in dispute between India and China, that is, the Chinese policy now is to gradually increase their areas of possession in all parts of their neighborhood, whether it is South China Sea, whether it is towards Japan, the island that they are claiming, and towards Bhutan. This is a pattern in their behavior. They were not expecting that India will come and confront them, because South China Sea, they were able to convert all these outcrops into islands, and the countries like Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, they kept on protesting, but they did not have the capacity to really confront China. But since India has stood up against China, they are very irritated, and that's why they are issuing such aggressive statements. But as you have noted, India and Bhutan have been very calm, very measured, very sober, and it is our belief and our Foreign Minister's belief that by diplomatic way this issue can be settled, and the settlement is very easy. The Chinese should stop constructing that road and our forces will come back.
Mr. Pail, we also see that Sushma Swaraj's visit to Nepal comes just ahead of the Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba, who's due to visit India on August 23rd. We've also seen that India-Nepal relations have not been as smooth as one would like them to be. And if we were to go by the media reports, China and its diplomats have also briefed Nepal as far as the Doklam standoff is concerned. We also saw that Nepal is one of the South Asian nations that have actually signed on the OBR also. When you look at the India-Nepal relationship in the backdrop of all this that is happening, there is the Doklam thing, the OBR thing, then we have Bhutan and India. How do you think India and Nepal need to go forward as they build a closer relationship, especially in light of the fact that China seems to be very interested in increasing its influence in the Himalayan kingdom of Nepal?
India and Nepal relations have been close, but have also seen many ups and downs. But India has had tremendous investment in Nepal, and there is a lot of aid in different forms for road, universities, all kinds of other social hospitals, etc. But China is definitely trying to create gulf between India and the Nepalese establishment. As far as Doklam is concerned, the Nepalese Prime Minister has very clearly said that on this issue, Nepal will remain neutral. And again, if we look at it from Nepal's point of view, it is a small country sandwiched between two giants, and they will certainly not like to get involved. So that is very understandable position as far as we are concerned. As long as they remain neutral and they don't take an anti-India stand, we can live with it. But the bigger thing is that just like Bhutan has become prosperous by allowing India to tap its water resources, by making dams on the hydroelectric projects, somehow Nepal has been reluctant to allow India to tap that potential. That is something in which we always want that Nepal should reconsider. It will lead to a lot of prosperity in Nepal and will also lead to a lot of energy supply towards India. So there are some areas where we can cooperate with Nepal very easily, and I hope when the Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. Deuba, comes here, on those lines there is some progress. And their relations with China, etc., Nepal has been playing both sides for quite some time, and we should not expect that they will change their policy.
Ambassador Tayal, when we listen to the speech that External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has given at BIMSTEC, she has talked of many issues and connectivity is one issue she has raised. Connectivity in the region, connectivity projects initiated by India which connects the neighborhood as far as Thailand has been a priority for India, especially when we look at the very ambitious One Belt, One Road initiative of China, which is essentially again a connectivity project. How do you realistically assess the success going forward of BIMSTEC nations being able to come together and actually get some connectivity projects running on the ground?
The major connectivity project, of course, is India-Myanmar-Thailand road, on which a lot of work is going on. It has been speeded up, but it has been delayed. Now perhaps 2019 or 2020 it will be ready. Then there will be a direct road from our northeast right up to Thailand through Myanmar. But there are other aspects of connectivity which are also important. For instance, the transportation. That means the truck, if it starts from Nepal, it should be able to cross India and go to Bangladesh. If an Indian truck starts from India, it should go to Bangladesh and then to northeast and then to Myanmar, etc. without much paperwork. I think there is a lot of emphasis on that both the licenses, transit permits, customs regulations, these should become easy so that there is more trade, transit, transport, tourism among the member countries of BIMSTEC.
Ambassador Tayal, we see that BIMSTEC members include Sri Lanka, they include Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal, Thailand, as you've pointed out. I was to focus on the membership of Sri Lanka, again as we are talking about connectivity projects and BIMSTEC emerging. We've also seen that Sri Lanka's role has been a little fuzzy or a little unclear because as you had said, Nepal is playing, both India and China. Can we say a similar thing when it comes to Sri Lanka, that Sri Lanka also plays or tries to balance out India against China or China against India for its own national interests?
China is definitely targeting countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, so that they can have some kind of naval bases there. And their modus operandi is to offer some credit and technology, labor, to create facilities, infrastructure, and then make use of it. In Sri Lanka, they invested more than $1 billion, and port has now been given on lease to China because it could not produce enough revenue. So this is a direction in which we have to advise Sri Lanka not to go and safeguard their own interests and also India's security interests. I believe that Sri Lanka now understands what are the red lines drawn by India, and they will not cross those lines.
Gap of 17 years, PM Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to actually travel to Nepal. When you put the neighborhood first policy and then you also look at the look east policy, both the policies running parallel, maybe SAARC better fitted the neighborhood policy module, and when you look at the look east policy, maybe BIMSTEC fits better. Do you think that is a realistic option, that we can actually have a regional grouping of Southeast Asian nations, South Asian nations, and somehow keep Pakistan out of that regional grouping? Is that a realistic ambition to have?
I think it's a very realistic objective, and also it has been achieved to a certain extent. Pakistan is not there, Afghanistan is in its own problems. There all the other countries of SAARC are there. Because initially when BIMSTEC started, Bhutan and Nepal were not members, and later only they joined as members. So the objective of Indian policies is very clear, to create a regional group which does not have Pakistan, so that it can have more coherence and more harmony and more achievements.
How would you, for our listeners, paint out the future of BIMSTEC? Do you think this will be more of an economic cooperation? Apart from the economic fact, India and the member states of BIMSTEC can come together even for strategic purposes.
The name itself is for technical and economic cooperation. So I would say that perhaps focus will remain on technical and economic cooperation. There is a lot to do. So there are a lot of synergies. There are a lot of complementarities, and if all the countries work with focus, it will be to the advantage of all the countries and their peoples.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on 15th BIMSTEC meeting. The participants were Skand Ranjan Tayal, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.